Well, today is all about the stories that keep you stuck. And stories shape us long before we realize it. And as a kid, I could lose entire summer afternoons in piles of library books, swept away by fairy tales. And I knew they weren't real, but oh, they still felt so powerful. And as adults, we craft our own versions of those tales, only now they just run quietly in the background. Narratives about being, maybe too old, not ready, and not talented enough, or certain to fail. I hear those same internal scripts from mid career professionals and entrepreneurs, which is all the time. And they can be just as misleading as the stories that I read growing up. And when they are repeated, they gather strength and they start to limit what we try and what we risk and what we imagine for ourselves. And if you've ever felt stuck or unable to move forward, well, it might not be your age or your circumstances holding you back, but it just might be the story that you're believing. So today we're going to unpack three of the most common narratives that keep people stalled and stuck, and the simple shifts that can help you break free. So stay tuned. Power of After is for you at mid-career, halftime of life, helping you maximize your skills, resources, and experience. We have courses, products, and help to make this stage of your life your best and most purposeful ever. Don't miss a single article, free download, or podcast. Get all the latest at goalsforyourlife.com/newsletter. Now, let's dive into today's episode. We all tell stories. Well, they play in the background of our minds like a private audiobook, shaping how we see ourselves, what we attempt, and what we avoid. Now, those stories, they can be empowering, but they can also become the reason that we stay stuck. Now, growing up, I did spend hours reading fairy tales. I loved checking out different books from the library. I probably checked all of them out I could find, and I was preoccupied most of the summer. I knew my parents probably loved that as well. But I knew those tales really weren't truths. They were fairy tales. Now, when I talk to mid-career professionals, with entrepreneurs, or with individuals at the halftime of life, well, I hear the same stories again and again, like this. "Ugh, I'm just too old to start over. Well, I mean, you know what? I'm not ready yet. Or I'm not as good as everyone else. Or what if I fail?" Well, those stories, they began quietly. Then they gain momentum, and they build these huge walls around our potential. They're like fairy tales. And the longer we repeat them, the more convincing they sound. Now, if you've ever felt stuck, felt stalled, or unable to move forward on something that you say you want, well, chances are the story that you're telling yourself, that's the real obstacle. It's not your age, it's not your resources, and it's not your circumstances. It's that story you're telling yourself. Now, this show and this article, podcast, it explores the three biggest narratives that keep people from moving forward. And here they are. A fixed mindset. We've heard about that. Imposter syndrome. Wow, we've heard more and more about that. And the paralysis of inaction. We're going to walk through those three powerful actions that can break those mental loops and help you get unstuck, starting today. So really hang on to this, really listen hard. And I think you'll be able to identify with some of the things that we're sharing today. So first section are the stories that keep you stuck. Now, we all hold those internal narratives formed by past experiences, whether it's fear, comparison to others. Wow, have we ever done this? I have. Or misunderstanding of our abilities. These stories try to protect us, but they often end up really just holding us back. So let's look at the three most common versions of this first part of this. which is the story of a fixed mindset. Johnny Eric Tata is a quadriplegic. If you've not read about her story, it is very worthwhile. Get a book, an article, look her up. She started down that road after having a very serious diving accident at the age of 17. And rather than surrender to despair, she embraced a mindset of resilience and purpose. And during her long rehabilitation, she learned to paint using a brush clenched between her teeth. It's amazing. Some of her artwork is just amazing. And then she later taught herself how to write using voice recognition software. And this is before the whole age of AI. And over the decades, she's authored more than 40 books, sung on a record, and founded the global ministry, Johnny and Friends, which serves people with disabilities worldwide. Now, Johnny exemplified a growth mindset, which is opposite from a fixed mindset, which tells you that your talent, your intelligence, your creativity and potential, well, they're all just set in stone. Well, you either have it or you don't. But this story whispers, why try something new if you're not naturally gifted at it? Or it's too late to develop new skills. Well, that is so damaging. A fixed mindset, it shows up when you avoid challenges, you take fewer risks, and you feel threatened by other people's success. You start comparing yourself, and it convinces you that growth is just for somebody else. It's for someone younger, for someone smarter, more confident, or more qualified. And for Johnny, a fixed mindset, it would have kept her depressed and paralyzed mentally as well as physically. She would have just stayed in that chair, done nothing else. And if you've ever said, I'm just not that kind of person, well, you've experienced this narrative. So listen carefully here. What to do with this? Here's the truth. Nothing about your brain, your creativity, or your capability is fixed. Neuroplasticity, how did I say this? Neuroplasticity proves it. I've written on this before. I just can't say it. Experience proves it. Real life transformation proves it. A fixed mindset is just a story, but it can feel like a cage, just like an animal cage. You can feel like you're inside unless you name it and challenge it. So here's another story. Imposter syndrome. We've heard of this quite a bit today. If you've read at all, imposter syndrome is the narrative that says, oh, you're a fraud, even when evidence says something totally different. It tells you, oh, you don't belong here, or you're not qualified enough, or everyone else is ahead of you. You walk into a room and you feel all of these things. Oh, why am I here, right? Emma Watson, she charmed us. I loved her character, playing J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter character, Hermione Granger. But she's openly shared her feelings of being a fraud. I give that a link in the article that comes with this, and you can look it up. Even as she's grown older and taken on more public roles, those feelings just haven't disappeared. For Watson, imposter syndrome, it doesn't stem from a lack of success. I mean, she's had huge success, but it comes from a deep self-doubt at being good enough, even when the world seems to think she is. This is very, very common among artists, actors, musicians, very common. And this imposter syndrome story, it especially haunts mid-career professionals transitioning to something new. And after years of expertise, that imposter syndrome, it can still convince you that you're starting just from zero and that someone else they're going to eventually find me out. And you're not as capable as they think, right? The irony of this is the people who feel like imposter syndrome so most strongly are usually, they're the most competent. You look at them and go, what do you mean? You are so good at what you do. The story doesn't attack the unqualified. It usually attacks the high achievers who hold themselves to a higher standard. And this has also affected somebody else, like Sheryl Sandberg, former COO of Facebook and author of Lean In. Even though she could have easily been seen as a figure of confidence and authority, she had that little inner voice that said, Ah, every time I didn't embarrass myself or excelled, I believe, oh, I had fooled everyone yet again. Oh, have you ever said that to yourself? Well, left unchecked, that narrative, it just stops you from applying for opportunities or raising your prices. That's a big one if you're an entrepreneur, launching a program or trying a new AI tool or stepping into the next chapter that you feel called to pursue, even with no experience. Wow, that is very, very applicable. And here's another story of inaction. I see this next story quite a bit, and it's the most damaging story, and it's often the quietest one. The story of inaction. Now, this story tells you that oh, you'll start it later. I'll start it later when things calm down, or when the timing is better, and when I have more clarity, when I've learned more, when the kids are older, or when the economy improves, or when I feel more confident. But later, later can stretch into years. Later, it becomes a habit. Later, later can become the place where dreams go to sleep. So inaction, it shows up in travel as well. I've known this, waiting until retirement or better finances to finally go on that trip. I've known people who delayed their travel dreams for years, but only to face major health issues that suddenly made those plans impossible. And it reminded me how important it is to redeem the time and not postpone the goals that matter most. And it's why I'm doing more travel with my husband at this point in my life. We don't put those goals off. It's very, very important to redeem the time. Inaction, it's rarely about laziness, but it's almost always about fear disguised as hesitation. So if you look at any goal you haven't moved on, whether it's writing a book, whether it's starting a business, whether it's updating your website, launching a course, or preparing for your next chapter, well, there's almost always some sort of story underneath the stillness of it. So it's time to take out that journal, kind of figure out what your story is. So in this next section, I'm gonna talk about the cost of these stories. And you can probably decide this for yourself as well, but I'm going to hopefully prompt your brain here a little bit. These mental narratives, they do more than just keep you stuck. They shrink your future. So, and they can limit possibility. They create unnecessary suffering and actually strength. And they mask themselves so well that you begin to just believe that they're true. You're believing all of those, just like those fairy tales. You believe, oh, it has to happen. These stories also drain your energy. Thinking about a goal without acting on it, oh, it creates that internal friction. For me, it would take that internal guilt. Oh, I haven't started yet. And you feel the tension of desire mixed with frustration, expectation mixed with guilt. And that emotional weight, well, that can be heavier than the work itself. But there's good news. Stories can be rewritten. If you're a writer, you know about this really, really well. Writing is rewriting. New narratives can be practiced. Momentum can be rebuilt at any age and at any stage, especially at the halftime of life. I've learned this over and over again with just life principles and actually doing my projects. So let's move on to our third section here with 3 powerful actions to get unstuck. This is very important because now we've identified the mindsets and the inaction, but here's actions. And these are 3 transformative actions that'll help you move beyond those fixed mindsets, the imposter syndrome, and the inaction. So here's your action 1. You need to speak the new story out loud. Oh, wow. Got to take that risk. Awareness is the first breakthrough. Now, you can't change a story that you haven't identified. You can talk about everybody else, but look at yourself. Name the narrative that has held you back and replace it with a new one out loud. A lot of times you do this just by yourself. And here are some examples. Get a place where you're just, go in your closet or go, shut the bathroom door and just right there. Here's your old story. I'm not good with technology. Here's your new story. You know what? I can learn with guidance, one step at a time. That's your new story. You're going to tell that one to yourself. Here's your old story. I'm just too old to start something new. Too old and tired, probably. Well, here's your new story. My experience is my biggest advantage. You just have to think about it. You have to identify. It's a big part of my core common denominator. What we do in my program is you identify that experience as well as what you love to do. Here's your old story. Oh, I just don't know enough yet. Here's your new story. Well, I know enough to begin, and beginning teaches me more. And why is that true? That's true because momentum builds on momentum. Speaking those new sentences, it signals your brain to shift out of fear and into possibility. And it's simple. But it's really, really powerful to speak that out loud, to hear yourself say those sentences. And here is another action, action number 2. Very, very important. Take one imperfect step in the next 48 hours. Now, I said imperfect does not have to be a perfect step. Many of us want everything to be perfect, thus holding us back until perfection is attained. And if I waited for perfection in finishing many of my projects, I would produce very little. Now, I've made sure they were as good as I could possibly make them, and then I release them. But you have to take that risk. You have to let things go. But if I didn't act on it, the inaction, it dissolves when you take that single small step. And if I didn't do that, I'd never put anything out. So you want to take that small step quickly, not next month and not when you feel that inspiration hits. You want to take action in the next 48 hours, doing something. So here are some examples. And these are maybe with a business. You want to send the email. You want to write the first paragraph, especially if this would be for writing an article or writing a book. Create the outline. Again, that would apply to the same thing. Upload the photo. Schedule the call. Record the 2-minute video. Again, boy, you could second guess this one forever. Want to do that 100 times. Just record it. Draft the landing page. This could be for one of your products or just things that you're giving away. Those small actions, they unlock clarity. And clarity creates momentum. Momentum builds confidence. And confidence, that will rewrite your story. Even when you don't feel everything perfectly, you can still be rewriting your story. So here's action 3, and this is so important, is to surround yourself with story shifters. I love that word, story shifters. We rarely outgrow limiting stories all alone. You need people who can challenge your assumptions, who can expand your thinking, and who can remind you of what's possible. And those are the mentors, the coaches, the friends, the communities. They create those mirrors, and they're not just magnifying glasses, and they're not just yes people either. They're going to challenge you. That's so, so important. They need to challenge you and say, do you really know what you're thinking? A strong network, support network, it helps you to interrupt negative narratives and stay accountable to your goals, your positive goals, and to celebrate progress and really to celebrate truth and to build resilience, all of those things with that support network. And you can step into your next chapter with courage, with that support network. I have small groups, several different small groups I meet with. I have one lifetime group. I've talked about this before. I met with them probably 20, 25 years now that I'm accountable to, that we know each other's goals. We understand where each other are. We know what each other's families are like. All of that are businesses. So if you want to move forward, intentionally seek out those people who speak possibly possibility into your life, and limit the time with those who reinforce those old stories. And there's times I'll meet a colleague just to hang out for a while. We just talk shop. We talk some business. It's refreshing, inspiring, and motivating. What's going on with you? What challenges are you going through? And I'm inspired also when interviewing many of my podcast guests with their stories. Oh my goodness, great stories. They're everywhere. Just look for them. So I want to tie this up now with a conclusion that you're not stuck. It's probably just your story. Where you're today is where you are today. It's not your final chapter. And the stories that keep you stuck, they're just those old narratives that you have that they've overstayed their welcome. Okay, just tell them to get out. You can rewrite them. You can redirect your future, and you can step into your next chapter with strength, with strategy, and with purpose. I hope that inspires you. And your best work, your greatest impact, your most meaningful contributions, they're not behind you. Well, they're ahead of you. And they begin the moment that you decide to take action, to shift your mindset, and to tell a new story about who you are and what's possible next. So very important. If I can inspire you to keep going on that, that's so exciting to me. So here's just a little takeaway here that you want to remember, and get the article that comes with this. Number 1, speak your new story out loud. And then take one imperfect step. I mean, you just have to start. And then finally, you need to surround yourself with story shifters. And those story shifters, make sure that they're also truth tellers, that they can give you an honest reflection of yourself and not just yes people, just to listen to, all of your negativity. So that's very, very important. Those that know you and that will help you out in your journey. So I hope this has been encouraging to you. It's a great episode for me, especially as this is being produced and released at the end of a year, for us to really look at the story that we are writing and rewriting maybe for our next year and our plans. Very, very important to spend time doing that. And it's such a pleasure to be with you every week. I'm Deborah Johnson, and make sure you connect with me. I'm on all the social media sites, and that you get our newsletter and the articles that come with each of these podcasts. You won't miss a single one. Thanks so much again, and I will look forward to being with you again next time. So bye-bye for now. Thanks so much for spending time with me today. I love bringing you insights to help you maximize your skills, resources, and experience at mid-career and beyond, so that you can make your next chapter your most impactful and purposeful yet. I'm Deborah Johnson, and I can't wait to be with you again next time on the Power of After show.